the people that are there, sounds like so far so good when it comes to Shedeur Sanders and OTAs and minicamps. Your thoughts on that?
I'm not surprised, Ross. What's funny about this whole thing is because the reason why he's thriving is what people say they love about the quarterback position, which under this particular draft cycle became a knock. But then when Purdy signed his deal, all you heard was, well, Purdy does all the things well, plays from the pocket, throws on time, gets the ball out with perfect placement and accuracy.
Listen, while everyone was busy writing off Shedeur Sanders as just another coach's kid getting handed opportunities, something quietly explosive was happening at Cleveland Browns OTAs. 7 out of 9 passes completed, 3 touchdowns. And suddenly, the same critics who questioned his arm strength are scrambling to explain why this kid is making it look effortless. But here's what they're not telling you about what's really going down in Cleveland. You know what's wild? The same people who spent months tearing this kid apart for being Deion's son are now sitting in complete silence watching him carve up NFL defenses like he's been doing it his whole life. And trust me, I've been following this story closer than anyone, and what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind. Picture this scene. It's OTAs in Cleveland. The media is there, cameras rolling, expecting to catch Shedeur Sanders struggling, maybe throwing some wobbly passes, giving them more ammunition to fuel their narrative. Instead, they're watching this 22-year-old kid step into the pocket with the confidence of a 10-year veteran, scanning the field like he owns it, and delivering strikes that would make Joe Burrow jealous. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is something that's flying completely under the radar. According to insider reports from the Browns facility, Shedeur isn't just completing passes. He's doing it with surgical precision that's making coaches do double takes. We're talking about throws that are hitting receivers in stride, threading needles in coverage, and showing the kind of pocket presence that takes most quarterbacks years to develop. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just OTAs. It doesn't mean anything. But hold up. Let me tell you why this is different. See, most rookie quarterbacks come into OTAs nervous, overwhelmed, trying to prove they belong. Shedeur Sanders walked in there like he was coming home from vacation. The dude is treating NFL practices like warm-ups, and that's exactly the kind of mentality that separates franchise quarterbacks from career backups. And here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. The Browns didn't just draft Shedeur Sanders to develop him slowly. They drafted him because they believe he can compete right now. Think about it. They've got Dillon Gabriel, they've got veteran quarterbacks on the roster, but all the early reports are saying the same thing. Shedeur is making this look easy, but let me paint you the real picture of what's happening behind closed doors in Cleveland. Sources close to the organization are saying that during these OTA sessions, when Shedeur gets his limited reps, he's making every single one count. We're not talking about dump-off passes and safe throws. This kid is launching rockets downfield, fitting balls into tight windows, and showing the kind of arm talent that had scouts drooling during his Colorado days. Remember, this is the same quarterback who threw for over 4,000 yards at Colorado, who had NFL scouts comparing his mechanics to some of the best in the game. But somehow, because his last name is Sanders, people wanted to act like he was just riding Daddy's coattails. Well, guess what? Daddy's not out there throwing these passes for him. The pressure on Shedeur right now is absolutely insane, and that's exactly where he thrives. Think about it. He's coming into a quarterback room with Dillon Gabriel, a guy who's been getting first-team reps, and he knows he has to make every single throw count because the media is watching his every move. Most rookies would crumble under that kind of scrutiny. Shedeur Sanders is using it as fuel. That what's even more fascinating is how the Browns front office constructed this roster. They didn't just draft Shedeur and hope for the best. Look at what they did in this draft. They got Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, with their first pick. Now, Graham going 5th overall raised some eyebrows because he's not your typical athletic freak. But here's what people don't understand. The Browns are building a complete team around their franchise quarterback. They grabbed Carson Swissing, the linebacker from UCLA, in the 2nd round, a guy who completely shut down Iowa's running game and showed the kind of instincts that translate immediately to the NFL level. Then they doubled down on the running game with guys like Quinshon Judkins, giving Shedeur the kind of support system that young quarterbacks dream about. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is something that's been flying completely under the radar. The Browns coaching staff isn't treating Shedeur like a typical rookie. They're giving him plays that require serious football IQ, complex reads, and the kind of decision-making that usually takes years to develop. And from everything we're hearing, he's handling it like a seasoned veteran. Now, let's talk about what's really happening during these practices that the cameras aren't catching. When Shedeur steps into that huddle, the other players are listening. We're talking about NFL veterans who've seen plenty of rookie quarterbacks come and go, and they're already showing him the kind of respect that usually takes months to earn. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when you're consistently making plays that prove you belong. The accuracy reports are what's really catching people's attention. We're not just talking about completing passes, we're talking about ball placement that's making receivers look better than they actually are. That's the mark of an elite quarterback. When you can make the players around you better just by where you put the football, that's when you know you've got something special. But here's what's really driving the haters crazy. Shedeur is doing all of this while dealing with the kind of media scrutiny that would break most rookies. Every throw is being analyzed, every decision is being questioned, and somehow this kid is just smiling and delivering strikes like it's no big deal. That's the kind of mental toughness you can't teach. And let's be real about something. The arm strength concerns were always garbage. This is the same quarterback who was launching 60-yard bombs at Colorado, hitting receivers in stride downfield like it was nothing. But because some draft analysts wanted to create a narrative, they tried to turn his arm strength into a question mark. Well, those questions are getting answered real quick in Cleveland. The thing that's really separating Shedeur from other rookie quarterbacks is his understanding of timing and rhythm. Most young quarterbacks struggle with the speed of the NFL game. Everything happens faster, windows close quicker, and you have to process information at a completely different level. Shedeur looks like he's been playing at this speed his entire life. Part of that comes from his background, no doubt about it. Growing up around elite football, being coached by one of the greatest athletes of all time, that gives you a foundation that most players never get. But here's what people don't want to admit. That foundation only works if you have the talent to build on it. And watching Shedeur in these OTAs, it's clear that the talent is absolutely there. The Browns organization knows they've got something special brewing. You can see it in how they're handling the media, how they're managing expectations, and how they're constructing their roster. This isn't a team that's hoping their rookie quarterback might develop into something good. This is a team that believes they've found their franchise guy. But here's where things get really spicy, and this is something that's going to have major implications for the rest of the season. The quarterback competition in Cleveland is heating up fast, and it's not going the way most people expected. Dillon Gabriel was supposed to be the veteran presence, the guy who would ease the pressure on Shedeur and give him time to develop. Instead, Shedeur is pushing Gabriel harder than anyone anticipated. The coaching staff is in a fascinating position right now. They've got two rookie quarterbacks who both bring different strengths to the table, but early reports suggest that Shedeur is showing the kind of leadership and command that usually takes years to develop. We're talking about a guy who's calling audibles at the line, changing protections, and showing the kind of football IQ that has coaches questioning whether they need to accelerate their timeline. And here's something that's really flying under the radar: Shedeur's relationship with the receivers. Chemistry between a quarterback and his targets is usually something that develops over months of practice. But guys like David Njoku are already talking about how natural it feels catching passes from Sanders. That's not something you can fake or force. That's pure instinct and timing. The defensive players in practice are noticing too. When you're going against guys like Myles Garrett and the Browns defense every day, you get a real quick education on what NFL speed looks like. But instead of looking overwhelmed, Shedeur is showing the kind of pocket presence that suggests he's going to be just fine when the real bullets start flying. Now, let's talk about what this means for the Browns season, because this is where things get really interesting. If Shedeur continues to progress at this rate, Cleveland might have stumbled into something they weren't expecting: a quarterback who's ready to contribute immediately rather than spending a year or two on the bench learning the system. The offensive line they've built gives Shedeur the kind of protection that young quarterbacks need to develop confidence. The running game with guys like Judkins provides balance and takes pressure off the passing attack. And the defense they've assembled means Shedeur won't have to carry the entire load as a rookie. But here's what's really got people talking: the intangibles. Leadership, poise under pressure, the ability to rally teammates when things get tough. These are the qualities that separate good quarterbacks from great ones. and early reports suggest Shadur has all of them in spades. We're talking about a guy who's been dealing with pressure and expectations his entire life, and he's learned how to channel that into peak performance. The 7 completed passes out of 9 attempts might seem like a small sample size, but when you break down what those completions look like, it tells a bigger story. We're talking about throws that showed anticipation, accuracy, and decision-making that usually takes years to develop. This isn't a guy who's just getting lucky. This is a quarterback who's demonstrating the fundamentals that translate to long-term success. And here's the thing that's really going to drive the narrative for the rest of the season. Every single practice, every single throw, every single decision Shadur makes is going to be under the microscope. The pressure is only going to increase from here, and how he handles that pressure will determine whether he's just a good story or a legitimate franchise quarterback. But if these early reports are any indication, Cleveland might have found something special. The combination of natural talent, elite coaching throughout his life, and the kind of mental toughness that comes from being in the spotlight since childhood might be exactly what the Browns needed to finally solve their quarterback. Puzzle.so, what do you think? Are we watching the birth of Cleveland's next franchise quarterback, or is this just another case of rookie hype that'll fade once the real games start? Has Shedeur Sanders already proven he belongs in the NFL? Or do we need to see more before we crown him the future in Cleveland? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear whether you think the Browns finally found their guy, or if this is just another quarterback mirage. And if you want to stay updated on all the latest NFL draft analysis and rookie breakdowns, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next in this story.